You're listening to Hustle and Heart, Defining Success on Your Own Terms, a podcast for the dreamers and go-getters who are building something real and refuse to leave the most important parts of themselves behind while they do it. I'm Vanessa, a brand strategist, founder, and your host. I sit down with women doing the kind of work that doesn't always make it onto the highlight reel, but absolutely should. This is where we have that conversation. Let's get into it. All right, picture this. You're a makeup artist with a brush in your hand and a big idea in your head. And 20 years later, you're running two multi-state beauty companies, leading a team of over 50 artists and helping brides across 4 states feel like the most confident version of themselves on the biggest day of their lives. That's not luck, that's vision, that's grit, and a whole lot of intuition. Today, my guest is Kate Johnson, founder of the Bridal Beauty Team and Glossed, educator, speaker, and someone who built an entire ecosystem in the beauty industry by trusting her gut before the roadmap even existed. So, Kate, welcome to this show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Huge, immediate congratulations.
So last night with Wisconsin Brides Magazine, which is like the biggest magazine in Wisconsin, which is amazing, we won Best Makeup and Hair Full Service Team, which was huge. Last year we won Best Makeup Team, which was amazing. And then honestly like was not expecting it at all. I literally I was having a strong face for the team that was there. I was like, okay, guys, like if we win, like let's all go up and take a photo. But in my head, I'm like, I don't know why, just like I didn't I there's some really great competition up there, and I just thought I'm like, "I don't think we're gonna win this year." But so when they called, I was like, "Oh, amazing."
That's awesome.
It was really cool, and it was just nice to have, like, the cheers of the whole community. The wedding industry is it's a very supportive industry where even though, in a lot of ways you have a lot of competition, it's kinda like if you went to an office and you had a lot of people that you worked with that you really loved. Well, we kinda have the same thing, but we don't go into an office, right? So when you end up in these rooms for these events or for a gala or something like that, it's like you'll have a photographer, a catering company, florist. You have like all these people, and it's like that's when you see your coworker. And so you also run around the event being like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in like 6 months," or
Yeah.
and it's just like this big reunion every time we see each other. Or sometimes you don't even recognize people because you haven't seen them in person in so long. And so it's really fun, and it's fun to support all the people, and it's fun to, when you have those big wins, and it's exciting. It's really exciting. And of course it helps for like your website and all of that. And so
Yeah, it
always the
does.
good stuff. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does, it does. Well, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes, and it's a beautiful segue to my first question. Like,
Yeah.
this is totally unplanned. I didn't know that you won this award last night,
I know it's happened
but
late
it's
last night, and I'm chugging coffee because I got home really late last night, and I had an 8 a.m. client. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna wake up today.
yeah, no, kudos to you.
Thanks.
Taking us back to the beginning
Yeah.
and really the moment that you realized that this wasn't just a passion, that it was a business
Yeah.
and that you can make a living off of it.
You know what? That's a really good question because I think it very much hit me by surprise when, I'll kind of answer the tell me how far to go back on this, but when I finally actually got into working in the beauty industry, because I had my bachelor's degree was randomly in special effects, makeup and hair for film. I did not go to school for that initially. I went to school for musical theater performance, shattered my foot, ended up changing my degree to special effects, having no idea what to do with that degree. Like, oh, I'll do this. But I was assistant teaching the class. I liked it. So it was like, okay, let's just get you out of school. I mean, because it was like, if you're not going to perform, what are you going to do? We got to figure this out. So let's just get you out of college. That was really like the professors, thoughts. And I totally understood. 10 years later, 8 years later, when I actually started doing it full time, I was doing it at Macy's State Street, which is Macy's State Street is kind of like the Macy's in New York that you think of. So if you know Chicago, you know Macy's State Street is the huge store. But if you don't know the Chicago Macy's State Street, think of it as like the Macy's Day Parade in New York. It's a huge, huge store. So I worked there as a counter manager, and I was like, "Oh, wow, I really remember why I like doing this." But I was like, I don't wanna work at a counter the rest of my life. And I thought, "Oh, I'll work for corporate," and I did that for a while. And then I started getting back into, doing some commercials here and there and doing some runway stuff, doing a little things. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun." And I remember that I was starting to notice the people around me that, I really looked up to, the other makeup and hair people, and they were like, "Oh my god, they're making a living doing advertisements. They're making a living doing TV and film. Oh my gosh, how do you do that?" And that's how I kind of started dabbling into that world. And when I eventually quit working for corporate Smashbox, and it was because I was starting to have to turn down these really big like advertising jobs because I couldn't get off work or something like that. And I remember saying to myself, the minute you have to give up a really big job because of working for corporate, like you're quitting. Well, that happened like a month later. And I think I like really put that out there into the universe. And I couldn't quit the job at the time because I had this huge event planned for that weekend. So I was like, just in good faith, I can't just like up and leave. Like I had planned this huge, huge event. But I was like, all right, putting in my notice, this is what we're gonna do. And it was the moment of like, okay, if we're gonna leap, we're gonna leap and we're gonna have to run really, really hard. And because I didn't know anybody in the industry other than like a couple people in the community. So it was like, we're just gonna run. We're just gonna run full force at this thing and see what we can do. And that's when I really learned about bridal because I thought, okay, I need to fill in the gaps of these jobs because when you would have these jobs in corporate, you can or not, sorry, in like advertising, filming. I was with an agency at that time. Like they have modeling agencies. Most modeling agencies also have a division that's makeup and hair. So it's like, yes, I'm signed by a modeling agency, but not because I'm a model, but because I'm on the makeup and hair side. But there's these gaps. Right. And you have to kind of win the jobs with, whether it be advertising for Kohl's or what was around at the time, Nordstrom's or these like places that would have online advertisements or catalogs at the time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Catalogs were still out. Magazines were still out. This is, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. This isn't that long ago. And, but the jobs were far and few between until you like proved yourself with them. And those days would be like $400 days. And it's like, well, that's a great day for a 6-hour day. What if you only do one a week? That's not going to pay your bills. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go into working for some of these bridal agencies and just kind of fill in the gaps. And when I started working for one of them, lovely, still a company that's around. But in my opinion, I had this huge corporate background that I was doing scheduling and I was doing all these things. And I thought, this thing is not very well organized. And I think it was just because most artists are artists and they're not corporate people. They don't understand necessarily how to run a business and stuff like that. And that's what I had actually done for 10 years at that point, not just with artistry, but in a finance background before that. And I thought, oh my gosh, like if these people are doing this full time, I could do this full time. I could run my own business. I'm just going to do it for myself. I'll still work for them, but I'm going to try to run this for myself as well. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm making decent money, walking away with $400 or $500 on a Saturday morning. I was like, amazing, this is great. And in doing that, I was like, okay. And then people would ask me, hey, do you ever need any help? And I was like, actually, yeah, I do, because, maybe somebody had called and they had or more people than I could do by myself. Or at the time I didn't do hair. And so I would have hairstylists that would be like, hey, do you ever need help? I was like, yeah, actually, because artists, again, don't typically like doing the administrative work. So that's why I go and work for these agencies. So when that kind of started happening, I thought, I'm able to do this full time. Okay. All right. So that's really when like it kicked in that, but I never in a million years, even when I first started it because it used to be called Kate Johnson Artistry. And honest to God, I just had that name just so I could have a website, just so I could get an LLC. It never occurred to me I'd have a business. I, honest to God, thought I'd be working for other people forever and just running that money through an LLC. It never occurred to me I'd have a team. It never occurred to me that I run my own big business. And so, I really started that business in 2010. And so I guess we're 2016 now, or we're 2016, 2026 now. God, right? By about 2015, by 2014, 2015, I knew it was starting to become a big business. It was when it was really like, at that time, I think I had like 12, 15 people working for me at that point. And I was like, oh, I'm fully sustaining myself this way. And I was starting to have to turn down other jobs. I had to leave the agency I was working with because I never had time. Because if I wasn't doing a wedding, I was doing the administrative stuff, and when you're with an agency, something that I think a lot of people don't understand is when people, think, oh, you're signed, even with the models, you're signed with the modeling agency. It's like, it's amazing because you definitely can get the bigger jobs, but you are really sitting by the phone waiting for a job. And sometimes that job comes tomorrow. They'll call you
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, we need you somewhere at 8 AM." Up until that point, you didn't think you had a job tomorrow. I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's wild, and you're just like, "Oh my god, can I pay my bill?" And that was freaking me out, and I was like, "I cannot just sit here and wait to hope to be able to pay my bills this month," you know? And so, eventually, they were so cool, the agency that I was with, the time they were called Factor. They're not called Factor anymore, I don't know what they're called anymore, but, I finally just called my agent and said, "Hey, like, I really love working with you guys, but I can't just be waiting around, like, can I take jobs, like, Monday through Thursday, and then I'm just not gonna work Friday, Saturday, Sunday because I'm gonna commit that to weddings?" And she was like, "Yeah, totally fine." And then eventually I just was, like, turning down work because, like, I would have other things I needed to do those days, and so, yeah, it was good.
Wow. So it kind of just happened naturally. Like everything seems like it was divinely brought into your world, like bigger than you even imagined.
Bigger, yeah, definitely bigger than I would have ever imagined. I would have never thought. And, it's so funny, I was talking to this guy, Steven, who I went to college with, and he was a musical theater major with me. I was talking to him, like, 3 weeks ago. I haven't talked to him since college. I mean, we see each other online, but that's it, and I had this idea that I wanna do, for social media, and I called and I was like, "I have an idea, like, I know this is really random, we haven't talked in 20 years, but, like, I have this idea, and, like, I saw you do something online, I was wondering if you would do it with me." And he was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "I can't believe this is what you're doing full time." I was like, "I know, it's so crazy." And funny enough, he's actually kind of ended up being in the wedding industry as well, even though he left actually doing musical theater and stuff. But it's kind of when you're in theater, you're really in that event industry because I think the reason why so many people who are in the wedding industry or eventing industry, I should say, but I really think truly the wedding industry, they are from the theater world. And it's because it's like putting on a wedding is like putting on a play.
I hear that.
It's like you have your costumer, your wedding dressmaker, you have your makeup and hair people, right? You've got your bride and groom or the lead actor and actress. You have the set designers, which is like the room decorator. You have the wedding planner, which is like the stage manager. You have and it's like once you understand that theater world, it's like transitioning it into an event, you're like, "I got this. Like, this is cool." And, like, we're so used to having to think so big and so far outside of the box so that whatever we're doing is translating off of a big stage, that I think that sometimes the people that are the most successful in the wedding world are people that were theater because we just think so far outside the box that it's just, like, sometimes when people are doing more tame situations, we're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, that's" like, we're like, "Okay, great, we can do that, that's fine," But it's fun. It's a really fun world. I love the wedding industry, and I have the other business that does corporate, and I really do enjoy that as well, but you really either love the wedding industry or you hate it. It's truly polarizing,
I can
and people
it's
know
a
that.
lot.
It's a
It's a
lot.
lot.
A lot, yeah,
It's a
and you're
lot.
dealing with high emotions, right? And you're dealing with just a lot of money and a lot of pressure. I did a wedding a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to one of the planners, and, they were expressing to me, like, that was a really important wedding for them, and, they were saying thank you as I was leaving and walking me out in the hallway, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a high pressure wedding." I was like, "Oh, why?" Like, "This is our most expensive wedding, up to this point." I was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Okay, how much did they spend? Tell me." And they're like, "Almost $500,000." I was like, "Oh my god, okay." And there was less than 100 people at this wedding. And I was just
My
like,
God.
I was like, "I should have raised my prices." But, I was like, "Well, what's going" like, "Oh, it's like half a quarter of $1,000,000 on flowers and decor." And I was like, you know, but I mean, so, there's a lot of money involved, obviously. Obviously, it's not normally that amount, that's crazy, but there's a lot of money involved and people just really want things to go really well. But the funny thing is, it's almost is a lot of times these people that spend a lot of money like that are the most chill people.
Yeah?
Most, the most calm, the most relaxed, the most gracious people. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah. They
Let
are.
me ask you something, Kate. You started your business in 2011, was it?
Yes. Well,
20
2010.
Okay, 2010. How did your business look like then, right? Paint me that picture of like the drastic change, the difference versus how it looks like compared to today.
Okay, so well, first of all, technology is like just the massive part of it, right? So it was a Word document that I would type up a contract and go in and edit what I needed it to edit, right? And it was me living on a prayer, buying a contract template, because I couldn't afford an attorney to write my contracts. And it was me using, God, what is that? DocuSign to get things I
DocuSign?
still love, but I mean, that's all I was using was DocuSign, not a CRM or any of that. And it was just me hoping to God, like if I just could build a website, if I could just do enough free things with photographers to build a portfolio, then put myself on the Knot and Wedding Wire and just like phone glued to my hand. The first couple years it was just like waiting for the phone calls, waiting for the emails, like and that's kind of the funny thing because I think of those early days, my reputation is I respond very quickly to people, but I've learned how important that is. If people really the faster you respond, the people understand, like, you take this seriously, you take their calls
Yeah.
seriously. I'm the only time I don't respond immediately is if I'm with a client or it's like 10 PM at night.
Yeah. You do have to have boundaries though, right? And there's a fine line.
Yeah. You do, and I had to grow those, but not in the beginning. In the beginning, there was no
Yeah.
boundaries. There's no boundaries in the beginning. What am I gonna do? Like, I will suck it up. I will put
Yeah,
on a brave face.
I feel like that's a learning lesson. That's an experience lesson, you know?
Well, and I think it's a building you have to build, and you have to I think at the beginning, I tell people, you gotta make it through the first 5 years of a
Mhm.
business to know if I think it's going to be successful, and it's because if I feel, at least for me and for some of the people I've seen go through businesses, if you can make it past the first 5 years and still be growing and still be liking your job, then you're probably gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Those first 5 years are brutal, because you gotta build that pipeline. And even like I was talking to a couple of my artists the other day who have full-time jobs, and they told me, they said, 'Cause we're really booking 2027 pretty hard right now, and it's May 2026. It's very surprising. Usually people are booking like 12 months out, but I can go into like what happens in the industry in a sec because that'll take us down a different road. But we're really booking 2027 really hard right now. And I have a couple artists like, hey, I'm not ready to book 2027. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, because to me, there's still that thought process that's like, the more I book, the further I book ahead, I know that there's financial security there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, I'm like, that's financial security. That means I'm cool. I'm cool for another year, like in this. And now I'm not so worried about it. Most of our business comes from referral, which is amazing, but to me, I'm always surprised. And of course I respect their decisions. They've got other reasons, but I'm just like, oh wow, like that's such a hard thing for me to wrap my brain around. And now it's like we do right now, I think as of yesterday, it was yesterday, the day before I did my last count, we have 447 weddings on the books for this year, and we have 60 on the books for next year already, which is a lot for next year at this point. Yeah, it's
It
really
is a lot.
a lot. It's a
Holy
lot because usually like out in the Midwest, September and October are gonna book first just because this is
yeah.
when the weather's the nicest, right? And beautiful. And you get the fall leaves and you always know Chicago area, Wisconsin, Michigan especially. My God, Michigan is beautiful in the fall. But those months, the weather's pretty consistent. You might have some rain, you might have a heat wave, but for the most part, you're gonna have this beautiful weather. It's gonna be crisp. The leaves, depending on where in fall the leaves might be changing, it might just be
Yeah, that's so
flooding,
true.
right? But summer, you never know. It could be cold, it could be raining, it could be disgustingly hot. It could be summer's almost the worst time, right? In December and January, I actually got married in February because I like snow, but in December, January, February, it's either gonna be really cold or you're gonna have snow, and that's pretty consistent, right? Spring, ugh, I don't like spring, but spring is because to me, I don't like rain. I'm like a cat. I don't wanna get wet. So and I think it's glasses. Do you ever feel that way? Because you wear
Yeah.
hate it. It's like we need little windshield wipers. But yeah, so I think it's just like learning the ropes, and I really try to help other people. And I think that for the most part, our industry is very helpful with each other. We had this big, huge thing last night that I was telling you about, and there's always going to be a team or two that are technically my competition, right? That are really competitive and kind of negative and nasty, but for the most part, we're really always happy for each other. And if I'm not available, I tell people who I like and, call these people, I'll give them their phone number, and we're really, yeah, we're competitors, right? At the end of the day. But if you like weddings, you're looking out for the brides and it's exciting. It's exciting to be like, I just had an inquiry about an hour ago of a woman who was like, my cousin forgot to book and she's getting married on one of the most popular days of the year. And I'm like, And I was like, "Okay, this is what I got." This is a Wisconsin wedding. I said, "I have 1 Wisconsin artist. I have 2 Chicago artists available. We can cover almost half of what you need. Then let me call this other company and see if they've got an artist or 2." You know what I mean? We kinda just, like, puzzle it together. And I'm like, "You're just gonna have to pay for travel for my Chicago people, but it's only an hour drive. It's not like that big of a deal."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like this is what it is, but they know because they realize a lot of people don't realize people book bridal people a year in advance. You're calling.
Especially bridal, yeah. Hair, makeup, like, that's for sure. Lock that down.
Yeah, lock it down.
The date, you lock that in.
You get your venue, you get your photographer, I kinda wanna say you get your planner, but there's a lot of planners out there, and I don't mean that planners aren't important. Planners are gonna be your number 1 most important vendor. If you don't have a planner, I'm just like, "Oh, you're gonna be hating life." Like, I don't mean you need a full-time planner. You don't need that. You need a day of coordinator. It's really gonna save your life. But the other people are like, your makeup and hair, this is your face. Like, you don't need to know what you wanna do, but you need to find somebody you can vibe with, you know,
Absolutely.
because, I would say, like, go buy some Payless shoes if you need to, right? Nobody sees your feet. Spend money on your face, So, like, what people see. Yeah.
So true. What's so interesting about your story, Kate, is the fact that I've worked with a lot of beauty brands. I've worked with some hairstylists, and in that industry, and I've also worked within like hair manufacturers as well. So
I mean,
I've been in the industry. I've gone to the trade shows. I know, like as collaborative as it is just as competitive, right? And I've witnessed countless times at trade shows where it's like one person brand, right? They stay small. Or if it's, so you, interestingly enough, went the opposite route and you have 40 or 50
3 artists on the team.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, actually 55. I hired 2 yesterday. 55.
there we go. I'm growing.
Yeah.
55 across 4 states. So what I hear, I already know you have empathy in your DNA, right? Because that's why you do what you do. You do it for the brides, you do it for the other stylists. Like, I can see that that's strong in your brand DNA, but and who you are. But take me deeper than that, right? Like, why did you decide to do that instead of stay small and stay solo?
Money. I mean, just to be honest with you, part of it is money. And part of it is I'm older. When I started this business, I was 31. So I'm 48. And I realized very quickly that I'm a little bit of a different mindset. I think also understand my dad owns his own business and he stays small. He was a one-man show his whole time. And I watched my dad up until he finally retired last year. The man is 76 years old. But the thing is that he had a very successful business and he always said, I don't want to have people that I feel responsible for. And I can see that. But at the same time, I'm like, this man could not retire. There was no passive income. You know what I mean? There was no, I can sell this business. And, and the reason why also he was a headhunter. So when, Indeed and all these other companies came up, but they just like took over his industry. But also I realized like I can make so much money, but it's not really enough because in the makeup and hair, we're selling services. It's not like floral or food where you're, okay, here's the price of my product and then I'm going to triple the price to pay for the business, right? Like we're selling a number of services and then there's a profit margin on top of that that has to run the rest of the business.
Mhm.
And so in our industry, paying our employees 70% of what comes in is very standard, which is a lot, but that is standard. So the rest of this business has to run off 30%. That has to pay me, that has to pay my assistant, that has to pay for all the advertising, my rent, my car,
Everything.
all the things that are write offs. So what I realized was I was either going to have to work weddings every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, every weekend, or make my prices astronomical, which I say astronomical. A lot of people are fine with that, but the thing is that then it's like if you get too high, you have less people hiring you, right? Which I know that some people say that's great, and it is in I think some industries where you're like, well, no, I could live off one of these jobs, right? But you're not going to live off a job that paid you $3,000. That's not going to pay your
Right.
bills for a year. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different, and I realized like, okay, at the time I was also married to a very, very wonderful man who was in the military. And so I was making more money than he was. And so it wasn't like a lot of people in my industry that stay small, like oftentimes they're married to somebody who makes more money than they do. They've got a second source of income coming in. And I did not a lot, and so a lot just be really frank, a lot of it was money, figuring out, okay, I can have a life a little bit if I can build a team. And then it got exciting. And also, like I said, realizing these artists, they are very talented but they cannot run a business to save their life because they can't reply to an email in time, and I have that skill set and I love that part of the job. Like I love the administrative part of the job. And when you start seeing, man, these artists are incredible, but they hate that side of the job. It's like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, we can do this together and build something really, really cool, And I love a team environment. And it's like, okay, you're good at this, you're good at that, I'm good at this. Let's do that. Okay, let's just all bring it together. And I swear I'm constantly starting small businesses because I'm such like a problem solver, right? And people like, Kate, like my friend Vicky the other day came, she's like, Kate, we should do this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, we should totally do that. And then I looked, I said, when do we have time to do that, Vicky? We have no time, but it's a great idea. And I think we would kill it, but we need one of us have time for this. We both have small kids. She works for me. She's one of my artists. She has her own thriving business on the side of my business. And so I was like, girl, we don't have time for this.
Yeah.
But it's great, and I don't know, I love the industry, and I love putting a puzzle together, not a real puzzle. Understand, I hate real puzzles, but business puzzles, I love putting them together. I think it's like a rush. It's like my adrenaline rush to, like, figure out how to solve a problem,
No,
that someone's coming up with.
yeah, yeah. I like to call that solutionizing.
Ooh, I like
Like
that.
I'm a solutionizer.
Okay, that's really good. Okay, so I had a friend who used to say she was the CVO of her business, and so I adopted that as the chief visionary officer of the
Uh-huh.
job. And I'm like, okay, that's good though. Wait, what is it? The strategizer?
Solutionizer.
Solution. So you're gonna be the chief solutionizing
Sir.
officer
She
of
yeah.
CSO. Wait, is that something else though? That's gonna be something else.
Well, even if it is, it
I
doesn't
like
matter.
I like
What we call it to be will be.
I think what we need to do is both need to add that to our signatures on our emails.
Literally, yes.
Okay, I like it, and to our LinkedIn.
Yes,
Yeah,
right after this, right after this. Question for you, because you have 2 businesses.
I do.
How do they coexist? You have Gloss, and then you have the Bride Beauty team.
Yeah. So it actually is it's a really good question. So initially when I started this business, like I was telling you, it was called the Kate Johnson Artistry. And that was because I wasn't doing weddings at the time. That's when I was truly doing photo shoots and things like that. And again, it was for an LLC, right? And then I changed it to the Kate Johnson Artistry Brides so that I could run my bridal side, right? So I could have my Google and SEO and all of that. Well, in 2019, I had really been getting a lot of calls from people in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, for people that don't know, Chicago and Milwaukee are only like 45 minutes away. It's I mean, honest to God, it can sometimes take me longer to get to the suburbs than to Milwaukee. And people would call, but they didn't want to pay any travel fee. And I was like, well, who's going to drive up there? Like, nobody's doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to ask my team to do it either. And so, but I knew artists up there, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, why aren't they like, what's going on here? Because like I knew my friend Dana and she'd be like, oh, do you ever need any help? And I'm like, but why am I getting calls from Milwaukee and you live in Milwaukee? Like, why aren't they calling you? You know what I mean? And it kind of made me go back to the whole, and not everybody's good at the administrative side, and so I was like, okay, so I wanted to expand. And I was talking to a girlfriend of mine who also had her own company, Sophia. And I don't know why, but I felt like she and I had very different strengths in running a business. And I said, do you want to partner and expand to Wisconsin? We sat down, had several dinners. How could we do this? How could we do this? And we both decided that the best way to do it would be to let go of our company names and create the bridal beauty team so that like it wasn't because initially my business was bigger than hers. And I was like, well, I think that we should keep Kate Johnson Artistry Bride's name because I already have all this SEO. And, and then I was like, "No, that's not really fair." And she's like, that's not really, unless I was gonna buy her company. That's not really fair to ask her to do that because she had a successful company as well. So we came up with the name The Bridal Beauty Team, quite frankly, because I was Googling new company names and I was like, Google the Bridal Beauty Teams. And I was like, wait, does nobody have this name? The Bridal Beauty Team? Nobody has this name. I was like, how is this possible? So I like, bought the domain, had it trademarked. I was like, oh my God. Like, and it took forever. It took like 2 years to trademark it because it's kind of a vague name. But yeah, so went up there and expanded the the business. She ended up deciding she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so she wrote the company back over to me. But so when we were doing this and I would start getting calls from producers. I used to do a lot of junkets. So if somebody doesn't know what a junket is, it's when actors are coming into a city to meet with press, all of that. So I used to do a lot of that. But because I was no longer that company name, I noticed I wasn't getting those calls as much anymore. Now, sometimes people would find me and I had my old emails forwarded to the new emails. I had like all of those things happening. But I kind of realized like that business was falling off and I really like that side of the business. I'd like met a lot of my celebrity clients that way. I met like some just like, getting cool jobs where you're like, this is such a cool job, you know? And they, they're kind of far and few in between. It's Chicago. It's not Los Angeles or New York, right? But they were fun. They were fun jobs to do. And so I was like, okay, I need to have a second business because people are not calling me because the name of the company is the Bridal Beauty Team, right? And I had people go like, "I didn't know, do you do things other than weddings?" And after hearing that about 10 times, I was like, "Yes, of course, I do things other than weddings," you know? And so I was meeting with my current assistant, Gina. She's been with me for about 5 years. And I said, "I think we need to start another company. We need to have a different name." And I was like, I cannot run the bridal beauty team without her. She is my lifeline." And I was like, "I want you to be a partner with me in this second business because I wouldn't know how to sign over part of the other business with her because I'd had it for 10 years before she even came around." And so I was like, "But if you why don't you be my partner in this business so that you have secondary income coming in, like a side, not a side business, but like she's going to be doing the same stuff for both businesses." So I wanted her to be a co-owner. And so we were looking for names and I found glossed.com, and I was like, how does nobody not have this name, right? And paid way too much money for that domain. But no, because I'm like, it'll be a long-term investment. And initially it was set up to be kind of like a dry bar because that was a really big thing in Chicago. There's another company that's done tremendously well. And so it's like a place where people can come and just do like a dry bar that also does makeup, spray tanning, things of that nature. The thing that I wanted to make ours different was it's the same artists that do all my other stuff, same location, same owner, same everything, just different name, different website. And so if you know and love the artists that we work with, it's the same people, it's just we're marketing in a different direction. And so we did that. We realized pretty quickly that that whole dry bar thing, not that dry bar is not insanely successful, they are, but that trend had kind of started filtering down a little bit. And so we started really marketing it towards corporate. So the photo shoots and, these big expos or something where they might have a headshot photographer there. We go and just touch everybody up that's in line. I mean, literally sometimes like I did one with a friend of mine 2 months ago or so. I think she did 300 people's photos in 2 days. And I touch every single one of their faces. I mean, just powder, lip gloss or anything like that, but you're just standing there, for 8 hours a day. And so things like that, and it's fun. Um, Again, we get to do some really cool jobs. We oftentimes do the elections, so when they come through Chicago. Milwaukee always has the Republican debates and Republican convention, things like that, so we usually do that. I work for CNN when they're in town, but I've been working for CNN when they're in town for a long time, so that's a thing through them, and just, different things like that. But again, we got found through Love Is Blind because the name of the bridal beauty team, right? So they were looking for bridal beauty teams. So they Googled bridal beauty teams.
Exactly.
Makeup.
Well, I before we run out of time, I mean, I could talk forever, but I wanted to ask you a couple of closing questions for you.
For 30?
So, 21 years in the game, right?
Yeah.
Long time, long time. Out of all those years of everything that comes with being an entrepreneur, having a small business, having a team, being in multiple states, what is the hardest season? What was the hardest season that you've had to navigate, personally or professionally, whatever you'd like to share, and what got you through it?
Oh my God, that's really good. I think the first 5 years are the hardest. I know that's a big chunk of time, but it's hard. It's hard. And
I
I
agree.
was this is gonna maybe sound kind of bad, and I don't mean it to, but he's very aware. But my ex-husband, the one I was telling you that was just so lovely, like, he was overseas a lot, and so I didn't have anything to do. So I was working, like, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, because I could. So I was
Yeah.
working a full-time job, and I was starting a business. So for the first 2.5 years of my business, I was also working a full-time job, and that was hard. it was hard. I was exhausted and just like, am I gonna be able to do it? You know? So I think the first 5 years is really hard, and I would say probably the thing that got me through it was, trying to pass time while my husband was overseas, and I didn't have any kids, and so I had the time, you know, which is makes me very fortunate. I think from a personal level, the hardest time that I ever went through was being pregnant, and I'm 48. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. My current husband and I went through IVF. At one point, we were pregnant with twins. They were stillborn at 8 months, and that was, I mean, for obvious reasons, that was very hard. But it was they passed, or I gave birth to them. They were already passed when I gave birth to them on September 1st of 2021. Wait, is that true? No, 2020. Sorry. And, that is, like, the first week of the busiest week of the month of the year. And so my business partner, Sophia, at that time, I think one of the biggest reasons she came into my life is obviously to help build this business, but for that specific reason, I was still doing weddings full time. I was not expecting to be giving birth until November. And so I was full on in weddings for another couple weeks. And she called all of my brides and let them know, like, hey, we know that Kate is pregnant and she's not anymore, and told them. And it was like hard because you don't want to tell a bride that they're looking into going into that part of their life, and you don't want to scare them. But she was like, can you just not talk about it? You know what I mean? Like, and like what Kate didn't want to surprise you. And then like you see she's not pregnant and on your wedding day, she's having to tell you like something bad. You know what I mean? So like it was really amazing for her to help me go through that. And then also just and having to grieve that, but still be really excited for other people starting
Yeah.
their life. You know what I mean? And have to be able to put all that aside. But then on the flip side of it, being so busy is what helped me get through that. Because I didn't have the time. I wasn't si I mean, obviously, I was sitting at a computer during the week, but I didn't have the time to sit there and overthink. I had things to do. I had 3 more months of crazy before I had time to, like, sit and think.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. So, I mean, I think that those are the hardest things, but I do think that, like, being an older parent is so amazing in some ways because, like, I don't have to choose between paying rent and diapers. Where a lot of my artists are young or sometimes single moms, and I just go, "Oh god, how can I help you on this?" But I'm also tired. So, like, "Hey, girl, I'm old." You know what I mean? Like, but some of it's hard, some of it's
Yeah.
hard. So, I mean, but I think that it's, I don't know, I have a very much a life that goes like this. I always say I have a very roller coaster I've had these extreme highs and these extreme lows, and I would take it any day of the week versus a life that goes like this.
Yeah.
And that's I know that the lows are really low and the highs are really high, and sometimes I get a little nervous when the highs have been going really high for a long time. I'm like, "Oh god, a low is coming." Yeah, like, "What's happening?" Like, something's gonna come and smack me in the face. But even you just figure it out. Like COVID, we did really well during COVID. I know it sounds terrible because I know a lot of people really struggled, but we pivoted, figured things out, and actually our business, like, tripled during COVID. So, you just kinda gotta get through it, and you just gotta be like, "Okay, gonna figure it out, gonna figure it out." Like, you gotta figure out a plan, and even if the plan isn't the end all be all plan, you gotta figure it out, and, I think some of the best advice I give young entrepreneurs is put those horse blinders on, honest to God, and sometimes that means stay off social media. Post what you're gonna post and don't look at anything else because if you're like me and you have major FOMO, like it eats at you, you
Yeah.
know? So keep those blinders
Absolutely.
on and stay focused on what you're doing and don't worry about what other people are doing, because it's not can't can't have the same opportunities as other people, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aw, Kate, this has been amazing.
Gosh, thank you so much for having me on. This is so exciting. I love it. I really my goal is, I'm 48. I don't know that I'll ever actually retire because I don't know what the heck I would do with my life. I mean, I'm sure something would come up and I'd be like, "Okay," but at the same time, I would love to sell the business at one point, you know what I mean? But I know that it has to get to such an extreme to be able to
Well, you
and
never know.
I
You
mean,
never know.
there's a lot of
But
people in my space. So it's like
yeah.
you gotta have something really unique and really special to get somebody to wanna buy it, so I'm working on
Heck yeah. You hear that, listeners? Anybody looking?
Anybody who wants to buy the business, I'll take Anybody want to come in for a spray tan or a color analysis or want their makeup and hair done, just come to
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
You, without a doubt, have built something super cool, very innovative, like rare, very rare, right? In the sense of, like I said, a lot of people, majority of people go inward and keep their brand to themselves or like make themselves a brand, and you really went outward. And that is awesome.
And there's a lot to be said by people that can do that, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
not
where
easy either,
oh my
right?
god, not at all. Because then it's like
Nah.
being a celebrity, like your whole life is in underneath the microscope, you know?
Yeah. It
Is
is not all that it's painted to be, but that's another conversation for another show.
well, impressive. I love your podcast. Like, I literally, like, I wish I had a podcast so much. I just don't know what the heck I would talk about all the time. So I love being on podcasts. Anytime you want to do anything, I'm in.
I love that. I love that.
Part two. I love it. Yes, I love it. Thank you
For
so much.
anyone that is listening and wants to follow you, your work, book your team, or learn from you, where's the best place to find you?
So probably the best place is Instagram. I mean, we have websites, and in most time we're going to send you to our website because we keep all of our pricing and everything on there. But if you go to the Bridal Beauty Team on Instagram, here's the caveat: when you go to the Bridal Beauty Team on Instagram, the actual handle is Bridal Artistry Team because someone already had the Bridal Beauty Team that hasn't used it in 5 years and only posted once. Don't get me down that rabbit hole. But if you look up the Bridal Beauty Team, that's us, or Glossed Finishing Studios. Personally tagged in a lot of those because I love that collaboration thing that you can do on
Exactly.
Instagram. So always reach out to me and any entrepreneurs and even artists. If you have a question, or my motto is there's no such thing as a glass ceiling. And that's my true motto. Like it doesn't exist. It's just that you think it does. And so whenever I feel like I'm hitting a glass ceiling, I find somebody that is way above that glass ceiling and ask for help. And I'm here. Like ask. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to, you come in a genuine way. You come in a way that's nice and like that's what I try to do with other people. And I'm so happy to help people. There's more than enough work out there for all of us. There really is. And I know it's hard to see that in the beginning of your business. It is. It's really hard.
And you don't want all the work either. You're going to go crazy.
And who else? I need like 25,000 artists to do it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you are an artist listening to this and you are reliable and fabulous and or are happy to be trained and are happy to be happy for brides, please come find me because I am always looking for incredible people. And I always say in the wedding industry, I say I can teach you how to do makeup and hair. I can't teach you how not to be an asshole. Excuse my
Hey.
language. The wedding industry, you gotta be there for people and you gotta have a good heart for that. So if you've got that and you're willing to learn, I'm happy to teach.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Hustle and Heart. If something from today's conversation stayed with you, share it. Send it to the woman in your life who's in the middle of building something and could use a reminder that she's not doing it alone. Subscribe to get notifications on new episodes. I'll see you then.